You've done everything they told you to do. You visualized the outcome. You wrote it down every morning. You repeated your affirmations over and over again, hoping they would sink into your subconscious. You tried to feel as if it was already yours. You stayed positive, avoided negativity, and trusted the process, just like the books, videos, and coaches said. And yet, nothing changed. What no one talks about is the quiet despair that creeps in when you've done all the right things, but your reality doesn't reflect any of it. Instead of transformation, you feel stuck in the same loop. Same job, same emotional patterns, same doubts. But here's the part that hurts the most. You start to think that maybe you're the problem. Maybe you didn't believe enough. Maybe you weren't grateful enough. Maybe your energy just isn't good enough. That inner self-blame is more damaging than failure itself. But what if I told you the real issue isn't your belief, or your willpower, or even your level of positivity? What if I told you that you're not manifesting from your thoughts? You're manifesting from your frequency. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And if who you are, energetically, is rooted in fear, lack, or desperation, then no amount of visualization can override that. In fact, trying to manifest from a misaligned identity can actually push your desires further away. Before you use the law of attraction again, you need to understand what's really happening beneath the surface. Because if you don't, every technique you apply might silently reinforce the very reality you're trying to escape. Let's go deeper. In the next section, we'll uncover the hidden lie behind the law of attraction that no one wants to admit. No one starts using the law of attraction with bad intentions. Most people are just looking for hope. They want a way out of the rut, a bridge to a better life. And when they first hear about manifestation, it feels like the answer to everything. The idea that your thoughts create your reality sounds empowering. It gives you control in a world that often feels chaotic. So you dive in, repeating affirmations, making vision boards, scripting your dream life like a movie. You believe that if you just think about it enough, it has to show up. But something strange happens. The more you try to manifest, the more resistance you feel. The more you repeat the phrases, I am wealthy, I am in love, I am free. The more your subconscious whispers, no, you're not. You notice that certain things manifest quickly. Small things, light desires. But when it comes to the things that really matter, the ones tied to your identity and your pain, nothing seems to move. And when it doesn't work, the shame kicks in. The guilt. The inner voice saying, you must be doing it wrong. Or worse, you must be broken. What most people don't realize is this. The traditional version of the law of attraction, the one that's been oversimplified into think positive and receive, can actually backfire. When you try to manifest something from a state of desperation, the universe doesn't give you what you desire. It mirrors the frequency behind the desire. If you want money because you feel unsafe without it, you are vibrating with fear. If you want love because you feel unworthy alone, you are broadcasting lack. And the law of attraction, which always responds to your dominant frequency, can only return more of the same. This is why affirmations can make things worse. Every time you say, I am abundant, while secretly feeling anxious about bills, you're actually reinforcing the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Your subconscious knows the truth, and the universe listens to that truth, not the words you speak. It's not about what you say, it's about what you are. The truth is, manifestation doesn't begin with thought. It begins with state. Your internal state, your emotional frequency, your nervous system coherence, your self-image, is the real language of attraction. Reality responds to your being, not your wishing. That's why two people can say the exact same affirmation, but only one sees results. It's because only one of them has shifted their frequency into alignment with that reality. The other is still trying to fake it while radiating the energy of lack. This isn't a moral failing. It's a misunderstanding of how energy works. The universe isn't judging you. It's simply responding to your coherence or your distortion. And if you're trying to manifest from a fractured state, trying to force a change while still anchored in fear, you're sending mixed signals. You're saying yes with your words and no with your energy. That dissonance is why so many people feel like they're getting nowhere, even while doing everything right. Now, here's the part no one tells you. Manifesting from a low frequency doesn't just fail, it reinforces your current timeline. It locks you deeper into the version of yourself that you're trying to escape. That's why desire alone isn't enough. That's why visualizing without embodiment leads to frustration. Because unless your identity shifts, your reality won't. You'll just keep looping, wanting, hoping, affirming, waiting, trapped in a cycle where the tools you're using are the very things keeping you stuck. The real lie behind the law of attraction is this: it's not about what you want, it's about what you're tuned to. And unless you know how to shift your frequency, your manifestations will always hit a wall. That wall isn't out there. It's in you. It's the energetic structure of your current self. But here's the good news. You can change it. You can align with higher frequencies, not through forced positivity, but through deep internal coherence, through honest awareness of where you truly are, and a willingness to move. You don't need to work harder. You need to tune sharper. The shift is subtle, but it's everything. In the next section, we're going to explore why frequency matters more than effort, more than willpower, and even more than belief. We'll uncover how David R. Hawkins' map of consciousness holds the missing key to real manifestation, and why raising your energetic baseline is more powerful than any vision board you've ever made. Most people believe that the path to manifesting a new reality is through effort. More affirmations, stronger belief, clearer vision. But what if none of that truly mattered unless your internal frequency aligned with what you were trying to create? What if the reason your manifestations don't stick has nothing to do with your thoughts, and everything to do with the vibrational field you're broadcasting 24 hours a day, even when you're asleep, even when you're silent, even when you're pretending you're fine? This is where the work of Dr. David R. Hawkins changes everything. His research, compiled in the book Power versus Force, reveals something most manifestation teachings ignore entirely. Human consciousness exists on a scale, and every state of being emits a measurable energetic frequency. Shame vibrates at 20, guilt at 30, fear at 100, anger at 150. But then, something extraordinary happens. Around 200, the level of courage, everything begins to shift. That's the breaking point between destructive and constructive fields. From there, energy expands. Willingness vibrates at 310, love at 500, peace at 600. Enlightenment reaches 700 and beyond. This isn't poetry. This is power measured and mapped. When you're operating below 200, your energy contracts. You feel stuck, defensive, reactive. Manifestation from these states doesn't fail because the universe is punishing you. It fails because those frequencies simply don't support expansion. If you're vibrating in fear but trying to manifest abundance, the very fabric of your energy repels what you're trying to call in. You're not a magnet for your dreams. You're a magnet for your pattern. This is the real mechanism behind why nothing changes. It's not that you're not visualizing enough. It's that your emotional baseline is too low to sustain the reality you're calling in. Imagine trying to tune into a radio station at 101.5 FM while your dial is stuck at 88.3. No matter how much you want the music on the higher frequency, all you get is static. The same is true with life. Your internal frequency has to match the level of the reality you want to experience, or the signal won't come through. And this is where most people get trapped. They chase goals from the wrong energetic level. They want unconditional love, but operate from fear of abandonment. They crave financial freedom, but are anchored in unworthiness. They desire visibility and influence while vibrating in shame and self-doubt. These contradictions cancel out their manifestations. They create a field of incoherence, and the quantum field only responds to coherence. It's not your desires that create your reality. It's the field you live in emotionally. Hawkins makes it clear. Force is the energy of manipulation, struggle, and fear. It might move things temporarily, but it never sustains. Power, on the other hand, is effortless. It attracts. It radiates. It needs no defense. And when you rise above the frequency of fear, into the levels of courage, willingness, and love, you stop chasing outcomes. They begin flowing to you because your energetic signature has changed. This is also where Dr. Joe Dispenza's teachings complement Hawkins perfectly. Dispenza doesn't tell you to think harder or want more. He teaches you how to become a new energetic pattern. Through brain-heart coherence, meditation, and elevated emotional states, he helps you train your body to memorize a future before it happens. Not because you force it to come, but because you finally resonate with it. That's what makes manifestation sustainable. It's not attraction, it's integration. Now, here's the most important part. Your nervous system needs to feel safe in the energy you want to live in. If you try to jump from fear to love without healing the space between, your body will reject the change. It will pull you back to familiar emotional territory. Not because you're broken, but because survival wiring hasn't been updated. That's why forcing positivity doesn't work. You have to rise gradually, authentically, from within. You have to build the capacity to hold the frequency you desire. And that begins with awareness of where you truly are, not where you wish you were. So instead of asking, "Why isn't it working?" begin asking, "What level of consciousness am I manifesting from?" Are you still carrying the energetic signature of an old self, one that vibrates with fear, guilt, or unworthiness? If so, every manifestation attempt will filter through that distortion. The universe doesn't give you what's fair. It reflects what's energetically familiar. But there is a way out, a way to shift. Not just your thoughts, but your entire field. And that's what we'll explore next. Because knowing you need to raise your frequency isn't enough. You need to understand why you haven't been able to yet. In the next part, we'll go into the real reason you keep getting pulled back, the hidden collapse of identity, and how your past emotional conditioning is hijacking your present timeline. Understanding that will unlock everything. You don't sabotage your life because you're weak. You sabotage it because you're loyal to an outdated version of yourself. And no one tells you that this version, this internal identity formed from old pain, inherited beliefs, and childhood patterning, is running the show beneath every affirmation, every visualization, every so-called high-vibration technique you're trying to use. You don't fail to manifest because you lack desire or motivation. You fail because your subconscious identity hasn't been updated to match the reality you say you want. This is where the real blockage lives, not in your effort, but in your energetic self-concept. If deep down you still believe you're unworthy, unseen, unsafe, or not enough, then that's the frequency you're anchored to, whether you're aware of it or not. And it's from that frequency that your entire life broadcasts outward. What we call fate is often just repetition of identity. What we call bad luck is often a return to resonance. You don't attract what you desire. You attract what your nervous system is calibrated to recognize as familiar and safe, even if that safety feels like struggle, scarcity, or invisibility. Here's the hard truth. You can't manifest a reality that contradicts the identity you're still holding on to. That's why so many people can talk about success, but never experience it. They can dream of love, but only attract abandonment. They can crave peace, but live in chronic survival mode. They're stuck in what I call identity collapse, a fractured internal structure where who they truly are is buried beneath who they had to become to survive. And until that collapsed identity is seen, felt and consciously released, the energetic misalignment will always override their conscious intentions. Every affirmation becomes hollow when it's spoken by a self that doesn't believe it. Every goal becomes a source of shame when it constantly reminds you that you're not there yet. Every visualization becomes exhausting when your body is locked in the past. And this exhaustion isn't just mental, it's biological. When your identity is out of sync with your intention, your entire system experiences incoherence. Your brain sends one signal, your heart sends another, and your body, still wired for fear, acts as if nothing is safe. This internal war drains your life force, and over time, you start to think that maybe manifestation doesn't work at all. But it's not that it doesn't work. It's that it doesn't override incoherence. You can't manifest love from a self that's still ashamed of being seen. You can't manifest abundance from a self that still feels guilty receiving. You can't manifest purpose from a self that's been taught to silence its voice. And yet most people try anyway, not because they're wrong, but because they were never shown how to rebuild identity at the energetic level. They were told to think positively and act as if, while their subconscious screamed for safety, clarity, and integration. The real journey isn't about forcing change. It's about becoming the version of you who no longer needs to force it. The version of you whose energy is so internally coherent that reality has no choice but to catch up. And the shift to that version is not intellectual. It's not about knowing more or trying harder. It's about energetically aligning the structure of yourself with the field of your desire. This means consciously observing your beliefs, your emotional patterns, your habitual reactions, and deciding which ones belong to your future and which ones only exist because they were necessary in your past. But there's something else we need to talk about: the timeline effect. Because when your identity is entangled with a lower frequency past, your body will unconsciously keep pulling you back into that version of reality. You'll experience what feels like quantum self-betrayal. You'll make progress, then sabotage it. You'll feel joy, then numb yourself. You'll glimpse possibility, then talk yourself out of it. Not because you don't want change, but because your energetic memory is still coded for survival, not expansion. This is why healing isn't just therapeutic, it's quantum. When you update your identity, you literally shift timelines. You collapse the versions of reality that were tied to your pain, and you open space for a new frequency field to emerge. And that shift doesn't happen through logic. It happens through emotional coherence. It happens when your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors align into one congruent signal that says, "I am no longer who I was." And when that signal is sustained, the quantum field responds. Not eventually, but immediately. Because time, in this context, is only the distance between frequency alignment and physical manifestation. So if you've been stuck, if you've done the work and seen no result, if you've tried every method but still end up back in the same loops, don't blame your method. Look deeper. Look at the energetic identity that's been calling the shots beneath your conscious awareness. And ask yourself this: what part of me is still more loyal to the old version of my life than to the new one I say I want? You don't need to fight that part. You just need to recognize it. Compassion dissolves resistance. And when you stop trying to manifest over your old self and instead become someone entirely new from the inside out, reality will respond instantly. Not because you forced it, but because you finally matched it. In the next part, we'll explore how to initiate that shift, not through wishful thinking, but through what Joe Dispenza calls quantum coherence. You'll discover how to move from identity collapse into alignment, and how the observer effect, wave function, and frequency bridging explain exactly why your internal state must change before your outer world ever can. We've been taught that if you just think positively, life will change. That if you keep your thoughts high vibe, somehow the universe will reward you. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Thinking positive is often just intellectual denial wrapped in spiritual language. Because no matter how optimistic your surface thoughts appear, If your inner state is broadcasting incoherence, your reality won't shift. And that's not because something is broken. It's because the quantum field doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your frequency. The shift doesn't come from changing what you think. It comes from changing who you are while thinking. And who you are, energetically, is determined by the level of emotional and neurological coherence you can sustain, not the mantras you repeat. This is where Joe Dispenza's work becomes vital. He doesn't teach people to repeat, "I am rich" or "I am healed." He teaches people to enter into deeply coherent emotional states, where the mind and heart synchronize into a single electromagnetic signal, powerful enough to collapse old timelines and attract new potentials. You may have heard of the observer effect in quantum physics, the idea that particles behave differently when they are observed. But most people misunderstand this. It's not that the particle changes because someone is watching. It's that the outcome is shaped by the nature of the observer's consciousness. When you observe life from a fractured, fearful state, the quantum field organizes itself around that distortion. It gives you more to fear. But when you become coherent, when your identity is clear, your emotions elevated, your thoughts aligned, the field responds with precision. You don't bend reality with effort. You bend it with resonance. At the subatomic level, reality exists as a probability field, a wave of infinite outcomes. Nothing is solid until it is observed, and the act of observation collapses the wave function into a specific result. But most people are unconsciously observing their lives through the lens of their trauma, their past, their fear. They're collapsing the field not into their potential, but into their pattern. They think they're manifesting, but what they're actually doing is rehearsing their old identity every single day, and then wondering why nothing changes. This is why the same person can meditate, visualize, and journal for years, and see little to no change. Because if the state behind those actions is one of desperation, control, or self-abandonment, the signal being sent into the field is fragmented. The universe is not hearing, "I want to grow." It's hearing, "I don't feel safe unless I get this result." And so it delays. Not because it's cruel, but because coherence hasn't yet been achieved. True manifestation isn't forced. It's allowed. It's the byproduct of inner alignment, not mental gymnastics. When your brainwaves and heart rhythm synchronize, when your nervous system relaxes into a state of openness, and when your emotional body becomes attuned to joy, gratitude, and presence, not as a performance, but as a real, embodied state, then you enter the quantum slipstream where outcomes materialize with almost uncanny precision. But this is more than just neuroscience. It's identity work at the energetic level. You have to stop trying to manifest as the version of you who needs change, and start embodying the version of you who already is the change. That's the essence of quantum creation. Not asking for something you don't yet have, but broadcasting the frequency of already having become it. The shift happens when the future you becomes more real to your nervous system than the past you. But this is more than just neuroscience. It's identity work at the energetic level. You have to stop trying to manifest as the version of you who needs change, and start embodying the version of you who already is the change. That's the essence of quantum creation. Not asking for something you don't yet have, but broadcasting the frequency of already having become it. The shift happens when the future you becomes more real to your nervous system than the past you. It may sound complex, but it's incredibly simple once you understand the mechanism. When you sit in stillness and elevate your emotional state, through breath, intention, or meditation, you move into coherence. When you maintain that state long enough, your body becomes the signal. Your cells begin to memorize peace, safety, and abundance. Your energy field expands. You begin to feel different, without anything in the outside world changing. That feeling isn't fake. It's the future visiting the present. And if you sustain that frequency, the outer world must catch up. That's not magic, that's physics. And it's not about pretending to be happy. It's not about bypassing your pain. It's about shifting your relationship to your pain. Instead of identifying with it, you witness it, love it, and release it. Instead of asking the universe to fix your life, you align with the version of yourself who no longer needs fixing. From that space, manifestation becomes effortless, because you're not attracting from lack. You're radiating from wholeness. So the next time you feel the urge to ask for something, pause, tune in. Ask yourself, who is asking? Is it the self still trying to escape pain, or the self that already embodies peace? Because the field will answer whichever one is louder, not in volume, but in coherence. The more deeply you embody your future self now, the faster that future becomes your present. Not through luck, through frequency alignment. In the next part, we'll break this theory into practice. You'll learn 3 simple, powerful shifts you can apply immediately to realign your energy, stabilize your identity, and step into your next timeline. Not through force, but through felt truth. Because understanding quantum coherence is one thing, living it, even in small moments each day, is where the real transformation begins. Understanding the science and energy behind manifestation is one thing, but nothing changes until it moves from theory into practice. You don't shift your life by knowing more. You shift it by becoming different in the spaces where you used to repeat yourself. And that becoming begins in moments so small, so quiet, that most people overlook them entirely. The quantum leap you're seeking doesn't start with grand action. It begins the moment you interrupt the old emotional loop and choose a different state, not someday, but now. So how do you do that? How do you realign your identity, frequency, and nervous system in a way that the quantum field can actually respond to? You don't need complicated rituals. You don't need to master metaphysics or wait for the right full moon. You need only 3 things: presence, intention, and repetition. And you need to deliver all 3 from a place of emotional truth, not performance. The quantum field doesn't reward perfection. It responds to coherence. The first shift is from external striving to internal embodiment. Most people wake up and immediately remember who they were yesterday. They replay the same thoughts, reactivate the same emotions, and unconsciously align with the same timeline. But if you begin your day by stepping into the version of you who already lives the life you desire, if you feel, breathe, speak, and move from that state, you change your signal. You stop being a seeker and become a transmitter. That shift alone begins to reorder your field. You're no longer asking for something. You're living as someone. And that distinction is everything. This doesn't require you to fake joy or pretend to have what you don't. It requires you to close your eyes, go inward, and feel into a state of being that exists beyond your current circumstances. Instead of reacting to your past, you rehearse your future. You become emotionally intimate with who you are becoming, not as a fantasy, but as a lived energetic experience. Even 5 minutes of that kind of rehearsal, done consistently, begins to rewire your reality from the inside out. The second shift is learning to stabilize your nervous system in elevated emotion. Most people try to manifest from stress, fear, and urgency. They think if they don't get it together, nothing will come. But that pressure sends a chaotic signal into the field. Coherence only happens when the body feels safe enough to expand. And safety is not a mindset. It's a felt sense. This is why breathwork, meditation, grounding practices, and even simple stillness are essential. They create the physiological baseline that allows your system to sustain the frequency of joy, gratitude, peace, not for a moment, but as a state of being. You don't need to feel happy all the time. That's not the goal. You just need to stop feeding the programs that keep you looped in fear. Every time you pause, breathe, and regulate instead of react, you prove to your body that it's safe to choose a new state. And over time, your system adapts. Your nervous system stops bracing for collapse. It starts expecting expansion. And when that shift becomes embodied, the reality around you begins to change in ways that feel subtle at first, and then unstoppable. The third shift is reinforcing your new identity with conscious language and behavior. This doesn't mean faking confidence or pretending you're someone you're not. It means using your words, your posture, your choices, and your daily rituals to anchor the version of you that you're becoming. If you say, "I'm abundant," but spend your day in worry and reactivity, your field gets confused. But if you say, "I'm ready," and you back that with action, clarity, and trust, you send a signal the universe cannot ignore. Alignment is not about saying all the right things. It's about living in integrity with the energetic story you claim. Write a script of your new self, not just what they have, but how they feel, what they tolerate, what they say yes and no to, how they respond to life. Then begin to live inside that story, not all at once, but piece by piece. Each time you act from that new version, you pull their timeline closer. You collapse the delay between who you were and who you're becoming. That's not just a metaphor. That's how quantum identity shift works. You choose the version of you that already lives the life you want, and you let go of the one who is waiting for permission. If you're wondering how to know it's working, don't look for signs in the outer world right away. Look for the inner sensations. Are you calmer, clearer, more grounded in your decisions? Do you feel less triggered by old patterns? Are you able to hold elevated states for longer without crashing back into doubt? These are the first indicators of energetic coherence. They're proof that you're no longer looping from the past, but broadcasting from the future. The external changes come next, and when they do, they'll feel like recognition, not surprise. In the next and final part, we'll speak to the urgency of this work. You'll see exactly why waiting to shift is the most dangerous decision you can make, and how delaying this alignment costs more than just time. Because if you don't consciously choose your timeline, your past will choose it for you. And the cost of staying misaligned is far greater than the discomfort of change. There's a quiet moment, just before someone changes their life, where everything stands still. Not because the world stops moving, but because something inside them stops pretending. They stop pretending they're okay with repeating the same cycle. They stop pretending that more information will fix their stagnation. They stop pretending they need more time. And in that stillness, something breaks. Not as destruction, but as permission. Permission to finally choose what they've always known deep down. That the version of themselves they're longing to become isn't waiting in the future. It's buried under the habits, stories, and survival patterns they've outgrown. If you've made it this far, it means something in you is already awake. You wouldn't be here otherwise. You're not here for motivation. You're not here for surface-level inspiration. You're here because something inside you is done living in a frequency that doesn't match who you truly are. And you don't need another technique to prove it. What you need is a decision, a clean, cellular-level yes to the version of you that's already aligned, already empowered, already living on a new timeline. That decision doesn't happen someday. It happens the moment you stop waiting. Because every day you delay, every time you say, "I'll get to it," you're not just postponing your potential. You're choosing to stay inside a frequency that cannot carry you forward. And the cost of that is invisible but devastating. It's not just missed opportunities. It's soul fatigue. It's the erosion of trust in yourself. It's the quiet death of the future that was waiting for you to rise. You're not here to dabble in possibility. You're here to become a living frequency of it. And you don't need to be fully ready. You just need to be honest. Are you willing to let go of who you were long enough to meet who you're meant to become? Are you ready to stop rehearsing your past and start remembering your power? If the answer is yes, don't intellectualize it. Don't write it down just to feel better for a moment. Embody it. Feel it. Anchor it with action. Speak from that place. Breathe from that place. Move from that place. Let every small decision you make today come from the energy of your future self, not from urgency, but from truth. And then reinforce it. Right now, choose one symbolic action that represents your shift. It could be a boundary you hold, a habit you release, a truth you finally say out loud. Let that act become the first ripple of a new field. And if you need a place to begin, start with your voice. Leave a comment that names the energy you're stepping into. Write one word that captures the frequency you're claiming. Declare it. Not for attention, but for coherence. Let the field hear you. Let your nervous system feel the newness become real. And if this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who's ready to rise. Because the more of us who align, the faster this reality shifts for everyone. We're not just changing our lives. We're updating the energetic blueprint of collective consciousness. This isn't a journey of waiting. It's a journey of returning to the self you've always been underneath the static. The quantum leap isn't somewhere out there. It's here. It's now. And it begins the moment you stop asking for a sign and become one.